Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Terracon Ecotex 2021 Biodiversity Day webinar, People's Participation in Nature Conservation. My name is Daivi Ghosh, and I am a Sustainability Analyst at Terracon Ecotech, and I will be moderating this event today. Terracon Ecotech is India's first ecology-based environmental consultancy. Having undertaken over 150 projects pan India since 2008, we have expertise in the areas of biodiversity conservation, ecological restoration, inventarization and plantation of trees and mangroves, environmental and ecological impact assessments, and climate change advisory services. Over the years, Terracon has transformed itself into a strong advocate of nature-based solutions to solve environmental and societal challenges with ecosystem-based approaches. Our webinar for today celebrates the 2021 theme, We Are Part of the Solution. This webinar will focus on how industries, businesses, and individuals can actively contribute to shaping and protecting our natural environment. Our speakers today are Mr. Abhijit Jagtap, a biodiversity specialist in the Ecology and Biodiversity Department. He is a zoologist and specializes in ecological surveys, especially for herpetofauna and nocturnal animals. He also present today is Ms. Pratiksha Chalke, a biodiversity analyst at Terracon Ecotech. Pratiksha specializes in GIS and remote sensing software and is experienced with ecological niche modeling and species distribution modeling. We will be having a question and answer session at the end. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please send them to us and we will save time towards the end of the webinar to address them. I will now hand over the presentation to Abhijit and he may commence the webinar.
Thank you, Devi, for such a nice introduction. Good morning, all, and good Biodiversity Day to you all. So let's start this webinar. Let's start with the news of the. So what's in the news? Convention on Biological Diversity, WHO, and various other research papers and news articles are talking about loss of biodiversity and release of disease causing global pandemic. So how disease are getting caused due to biodiversity loss. So what biodiversity loss has to do with diseases and global pandemics? How are we connected to it? Let's find out. In last 4 decades, since 1970, the human population have been rising drastically. It has been more than doubled, and our changing lifestyles are getting unsustainable, which is putting a tremendous pressure on very limited resources that we already have. We are right now might be aware that our resources are drastically declining day by day, and which is putting so much pressure on our pristine forests. This rapid industrialization and rapid urbanization is not, the forests are not coping up with this rate of industrialization. And to feed and fuel our lifestyle, forests are being destroyed all over the globe. Humans have encroached even in the pristine forest patches. This encroachment to we are getting exposed to, which can be host to wildlife. This exposure from wildlife to human is exposing us to infectious diseases. These forests were so pristine, were very untouched till now. The animals there could be host of various diseases. The diseases could be infectious from viral sources, or maybe bacterial sources, or maybe some other pathogens. It was not known. And as the human intervention and encroachment in gone so far that humans don't go alone when it's getting encroached or when the settlement is expanding. Humans take with them their domesticated animals, and the species jump can happen like the encroachment and the exposure increases the probability of viral or bacterial disease jump from host animal to domesticated animals, and from these domesticated animals to us. There is some cases where the viral or bacterial disease can jump directly from host animal to humans. So this rapid urbanization is directly exposing the host animals which were thriving in these pristine forests, in the deepest parts of the jungle, to us humans through various ways. What is the other thing which is happening due to rapid urbanization and industrialization? It's climate change, which is being talked about. Now all of a sudden I am shifting from infectious disease, urbanization to climate change. Why I'm doing this, like rapid urbanization is leading to climate change, which is causing global warming. Global warming is sudden rise in temperature. So what rise in temperature has to do with pandemic, disease spread, biodiversity loss. With rise in temperature, glaciers are melting. Melting glaciers is exposing us to deadly viruses and bacterial diseases, which were not known to us before. How this is happening? Check this northern hemisphere view. This is Arctic snow or glaciers as we know it. This is a graphical or a representation from 1980, the satellite view from 1980s. What has happened to this snow in just 3 decades? See, can you see the difference? In 2012, more than half of the glacier have been lost due to climate change and due to global warming. Let's see it again. The view from 1980, and due to melting and due to global warming, the view in 2012. More than half of glaciers have been lost to climate change already. So how this climate change and melting of glaciers is causing disease spread and pandemics? So these glaciers were mountains which were permanently covered with snow. Below the snow is trapped the soil containing various unknown bacteria and viruses from ancient times. This snow is literally from the times of Ice Age. So it has been so the bacterial and viruses and various other pathogens, which are popularly known as zombie pathogens, were trapped inside this since the last Ice Age. With rapidly melting, this snow is termed as permafrost. This rapidly melting permafrost is increasing the chances of introduction of such zombie pathogens which were frozen in ice for centuries. So is this something new which I'm telling you? You can see there are various researches, news articles which were talking about this risk factor arising from climate change and global warming since last decade, and in some even before that. Even in this pandemic, these scientists continue their work on assessing risk from such viruses and bacteria and also discovering new ones. Now that we know about the cause, we shall try and understand what is biodiversity. Biodiversity as a term suggests biological diversity. Diversity is just variety. It ranges from variety or diversity in ecosystems to species to genetic level. Here are some examples of ecosystem that we have. Marine ecosystem, as we know that earth is covered with more water than land. Marine ecosystem, one of the largest ecosystem on the earth, hosting a tremendous amount of wildlife and biodiversity, and there is a lot of dependency on marine biodiversity to humans. Then we go to the forest ecosystem. There are various types of forests. Two have been presented here. One is scrubland forest and one is evergreen forest. These forests contribute to a lot of endemism. The species ecosystem endemism is the species which are exclusively present on that particular ecosystem, which won't be able to sustain their life without these ecosystems. So a threat to ecosystem is directly a threat to the survival of the species. Then let's go to aquatic and riparian habitats and deserts. Aquatic and riparian habitats are like habitats with ponds, lake, rivers, and areas or vegetation and diversity thriving on the edges or in the systems. These also host a variety of endemism, and life is, we all know, it's very crucial element for survival of all the species, not just one. So ecosystem type of this aquatic and riparian plays a huge role in conservation and sustaining the biodiversity on Earth. There are two types of deserts in planet. One is a hot desert and one is cold desert. These are very driven by abiotic factors, and these both have their extreme natures, like deserts with the extreme temperatures going to scorching heat, and cold deserts with freezing temperatures. By the looks, they might look as a barren land or barren ecosystem, but they host their own exclusive biodiversity. So from this biodiversity of ecosystem, let's go to a few numbers of biodiversity elements of in as in fauna and flora. So IUCN, which is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, have been estimated that there are 5 to 30 million species on Earth. The estimation is a prediction. For species to get a name and to get a description, an individual has to be assessed for all the characters, genetics as well as morphological, and it gets inventorized. So from this predicted number of animals, so far 1.8 million have been described scientifically, and more are yet to get discovered. But by the time more are getting yet to get discovered, we are also losing the species which are not yet known to humans. 70% of world's species are found in just 12 countries, and India is one of those biodiverse countries. 25%, 25,000 plant species, which is almost 10% of world's flora, lies in Hindu Kush Himalayan belt. Tropical rainforest shows 50 to 90% species richness, which is a huge chunk of species richness. World's 30% of birds are dependent on this tropical rainforest. So there is a dependency, a direct dependency of tropical rainforest and birds. India and Indian subcontinent is home to more than 1,300 species of birds. Apart from birds, there are more than 1,000 species of reptiles, amphibians, and many invertebrates. India possesses more than 18,000 species of vascular plants. So this is all about numbers of biodiversity, how much biodiversity we have in great numbers. So are these numbers really that great? Let's see what do they contribute and why biodiversity is important. So ecosystem services are the services which we are dependent upon directly from the nature and from the biodiversity. There are various ecosystem services, like from acquiring food, water, and even to fuel our vehicles. We are directly dependent on these ecosystem services. Nutrient, water cycle, and soil cycle plays a great role in agricultural industry, which gives us our food. There is a dependency for food on agricultural industry, and agricultural industry is dependent on these nutrient cycles, water cycles, and soil cycles, which is an ecosystem service contributed by biodiversity. A fully functional ecosystem efficiently regulates air, water, soil erosion, and prevents pollution, and can keep check on climate. And last but not the least, aesthetic value, on which the whole tourism sector works in the form of recreational tourism as well as ecotourism. These are some of the crucial services that we acquire from biodiversity and shows the direct dependency of humans on biodiversity. What is the role of biodiversity in ecosystem services? Release of oxygen. The oxygen that we breathe, we not get it just from the green plants, but also from the phytoplanktons which inhabit our vast oceans, which are under threat right now. Bats, birds, butterflies, and other insects pollinate flora. So there is direct dependency on these bats, birds, and insects for pollination of flowers. So in the absence of these, there won't be a pollination of flowers. So there will be a decline in number of trees as well as herbs and other vegetation species. Bats, birds, and some mammals also play a major role in seed dispersal. So as they feed and as they excrete and as they move in the forest, they also do this indirect service, which helps humans in creating, which helps an ecosystem to generate the plants and the trees which thrive in the patches these animals are living in. By feeding on insects which can be considered as pests, bats and birds keep a check on their population. So this, by doing this, they are acting as natural insecticides or pesticides. We humans in the agricultural industry are utilizing chemical pesticides and insecticides, which is indirectly or ultimately coming into our food and from our food to us, which is causing us diseases in the long term. Forests serve as sound barriers and help in preventing noise pollution. They act as a noise barrier naturally. When a predator species is absent from a system, a prey species can grow to a level where it can create a menace. The example we can give is cheetah. Cheetah was once present in the savannas and the grasslands of India. In the absence of cheetah, the ungulate population or the deer or the gazelle population have increased. So this increase in gazelle population can create a menace. In what way? So agricultural lands are there, and the agricultural owners wouldn't entertain these animals because these animals cause a huge damage to the crop and the yield. So this creates human animal conflict. So predator animal, the presence of predator animal keeps this population in check. So it keeps the balance in nature. So there is a complex interdependency and dependency of life cycles in terms of biodiversity, ecosystem, and the role of biodiversity. So what is the problem right now? The species extinction. The last mass extinction which we know is of dinosaurs, which happened ages ago. Natural rate of losing species is one species in century, which is fine, right? Which is now changing, and it's a matter of concern because the rate of change or rate is increased drastically. But why this is a matter of concern? Because it's not because of natural causes, it's because of anthropogenic pressure. Anthropogenic pressure means the pressure from us humans and our activities. Let's go to some figures. As I introduced you to IUCN, IUCN deals with conservation status and the assessment of the species. So here is a graphical representation showing increase in number species endangerment over various taxonomic groups. So what is increasing species endangerment? Is this mean does this mean species are increasing? No. Endangered means endangerment towards extinction or being lost permanently. So rise in decline in the natural population increases the endangerment or a risk of getting extinct. You can see in the year 2007, more than 7,000 species were categorized under endangered, which means the population declined so much that they were categorized under endangered, meaning that they are facing the risk of getting extinct. And not so far within just the span of 1 decade, or we can say in 12 years, the number got doubled. Means 14,000 species were then categorized in 2019 as endangered. Means more than 14,000 species got endangered and are facing the risk of extinction. The picture you see below the red list logo is of Egyptian vulture. Once we had this vulture in India in hundreds of thousands. It has been categorized endangered due to drastic decline in its population. There are various reasons behind that. Similarly, thousands of species which are marching towards endangerment needs our protection or conservation actions. So we talked about mass extinction. Here is a picture of African cheetah. Do you know last Indian cheetah was hunted down in 1948? So we don't have any cheetah in India. So Indian cheetah has been extinct in the wild. Indian government is trying to bring African cheetah and trying to restore the cheetah population in India. Maybe this will happen soon. Why this is important? We talked about rate of extinction, which was one species over century, and IUCN has come up with an estimation. This rate have been changed drastically, which is 10,000 times the natural rate. It's an alarming figure. There are few more alarming figures. What could be the probable reasons? We are overusing Earth's resources by at least 56%. As I explained you, in the last 4 decades, the human population have been grown drastically. It has been more than doubled, which has led to overuse of the resources which were already declining. 85% of wetland habitat have been lost. We explained you the aquatic and riparian ecosystem, which is crucial. The water is life, and 85% have been lost already. Remaining 15% is also under threat from anthropogenic pressure. We know that Earth is covered with more of water than land. Still, this land has been protected. 12% land has been protected for the biodiversity and forest it has. Compared to that, roughly just 1% of marine area has been protected so far. This has led to exploitation of marine resources and biodiversity, and the fish diversity have been exploited in last whole century. Due to this exploitation of resources, there are already 500 dead zones in marine areas, which cover more than 245,000 square kilometers. What does this mean? It means these dead zones are deprived of life. There is no living creature present in the life. If one tries to fish, even with the trawlers, the net can trap plastic, but no living animal. So this has led us to today's day, why we celebrate Biodiversity Day. 22nd May was declared as Biodiversity Day or International Day for Biodiversity to bring masses together and to increase understanding and awareness about biodiversity issues. They had a theme last year, Our Solutions Are in Nature, which talked about nature-based solution. The term is old but got popular last year due to the international treaty and due to pandemic because all were home and were getting aware about these issues. Uh, these nature-based solutions were preferred over the other solutions. The reason for that is nature-based solutions are more sustainable because they demand less energy and less resources. There was few targets set for the last decade. The last decade was the decade of biodiversity. The targets were set by Aichi and CBD. CBD is Convention on Biological Diversity. There were 10 targets and not all were achieved on all the levels. So the new strategy for the new decade is under process and it will be released by Convention on Biological Diversity soon. But they had a vision 2050 for biodiversity. So how we are going to achieve that vision with the current year's theme? Though they furthered this theme, our solutions are in nature with current theme, which is we are part of the solution. So how we as part of the solution can contribute in the solutions which are already there in nature. So we are gonna explain you this in this webinar, how we as a part of solution can contribute or people's participation in nature conservation through different levels, through various levels, and which will help us attain the ultimate goal of Vision 2050 for biodiversity. What this goal is about? The goal is about living in harmony with nature, which means the biodiversity should be valued, conserved, and restored by the year 2050, and it should be used wisely, maintaining the ecosystem services, sustaining healthy planet, and delivering benefits essential for all people in unbiased way. Let's see how we as a part of solution, what we as a part of solution means. So we have divided this in three parts: we as a part of government, we as a part of businesses, and me or I as a part of the solution. Let's start with we as part of the government. We as a part of government, how we can contribute in nature conservation or being a part of solution. There is a need of global level policy guideline for biodiversity conservation. UNFCCC, which means United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, is an international treaty addressing climate change and biodiversity related issue. It also monitors the function and implementation or with government bodies in lines with CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and it also monitors the progress of the work. What Convention on Biodiversity tells you is it deals with uh, mainstreaming biodiversity across all sectors and fair and equitable sharing of the biodiversity. Convention on Biological Diversity is an international treaty, and India is one of the signatory to this treaty, which means India is abiding and shared hands together with CBD for achieving this ultimate goal of biodiversity conservation. So this is an international treaty. On national level, there are all the countries across the globe has administrative or nodal agencies assigned for biodiversity, forest, and environment related issues. In India, under central government, we have MOEFCC, Ministry of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change. The duties of which under Constitution are habitat conservation, flora and fauna conservation, prevention of pollution, restoration of degraded areas, and while doing so, ensuring sustainable uses of resources. So under MOEFCC and Indian Constitution, there are various provisions, laws, and acts and amendments. So these are basically policies. The acts like Wildlife Protection Act, Act like Biodiversity Conservation Act, Environment Protection Act. MOEFCC ensures the implementation and monitoring of these acts through various projects. There is National Biodiversity Authority or NBA, which has supported and monitored creation of state biodiversity board on state level. NBA deals with the main act of biodiversity, which which is related to protecting the biodiversity copyright or the value of biodiversity, which is exclusive to our country. Let's talk about it later. I'll explain it to it later during one slide of PBR. The main duty of MOFCC is ensuring implementation of all these activities in lines with the policies and amendments and the laws. So how this ensuring implementation works? The ensuring implementation should be effective enough. This for this implementation, we have local administrative bodies. The process for implementation for this assessment is assessment of current condition. This generates a baseline data which will help in future planning. Without the baseline data, it will be a blank page. There are few activities a government can do as a part of solution. One is tree inventorization. Tree inventorization is a GPS based, a modern technique with which the data is generated of each and individual tree and is mapped using satellite and GIS tools. This will be explained further. I'm explaining tree inventorization separately. There is another service as PBR, another activity as PBR. PBR is People's Biodiversity Register. It is mandated by Biological Diversity Act and is monitored by State Biodiversity Board in lines with National Biodiversity Authority. What is PBR, People's Biodiversity Register? It's actually a register or a database of biodiversity knowledge, the data on biodiversity and traditional knowledge on biodiversity. As we are seeing, there is a decline in biodiversity. There is also a decline in traditional knowledge with time. So this knowledge is to be preserved with time, as it can be used. And this knowledge is a copyright of a country. So this knowledge is to be protected under Biodiversity Act. So this monitoring is this PBR is made on local BMC level. BMC is Biodiversity Management Committees formed in local municipalities or local gram panchayat or even in corporation levels. This is a knowledge shared and knowledge database which will be updated from time to time. These two activities on government level creates a huge baseline database through assessment, and this gives the current status as well as the past history. Then the next step is analysis and prediction. We have two activities. One is ecological profiling and one is CBI. Ecological profiling is a decision support document which helps cities or urban bodies in planning development activities and achieve the overall goal of ecological conservation. What does this do? Ecological profiling deals with assessment of biodiversity with past and present data, and not just biodiversity. It assesses the abiotic and biotic components from past as well as present to predict a rate or to create a modeling which generates future prediction, which generates predictions and which assesses and helps us understand the dependency on biodiversity. With one factor, if biodiversity is getting reduced or increased, what could be the possible reason? So these type of findings can be generated with ecological profiling, which ensures making the efficient future planning for the urban body or for the taluka or for the district. Next is City Biodiversity Index. City Biodiversity Index is a self-assessment tool developed by National Park Board Singapore. It's also known as Singapore Biodiversity Index. It deals with progress related to biodiversity and its conservation. So this tool was developed in association with various experts across the globe. What does this tool has? This tool has a scoring system which enables local authority in planning future requirement and current status. So this scoring system takes into consideration the native biodiversity, ecosystem services, and its governance and its management, which gives us the index, and future assessments can be monitored with this score. The next approach is site-specific plan. Site-specific plan from government end can be urban forestry, which plans to fill the gaps for green cover. So green cover which needs to be assessed for the presence of invasive species or the expanse of the green cover, and to ultimately mitigate the a problem with green cover, if it's been reduced or it's been increased, strategies can be planned. This urban forestry can take a use of GIS tools such as green cover mapping. Sorry. The next activity in site-specific plan is LBSAP. LBSAP is Local Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Local Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan can be implemented or locally by local administrative bodies, and this action plan is in lines with National Biodiversity State Strategy and Action Plan. Our India's National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan were already in lines with Aichi targets and conventional biological diversity. What this activity is, local biodiversity strategy and action plan takes into consideration the assessment that we've discussed, the prediction model that we have discussed, and it deals with creation of strategies and action plans and the activities to achieve the ultimate goal of maintaining balance with ecosystem, ecological resources, and biodiversity. This also deals with improving the biodiversity at all the levels. The next and last step and the important step from the local administrative level is effective implementation and monitoring of all these steps. This is a crucial step because until and unless the activities are being effectively monitored and implemented, there is actually a blind eye. So the crucial step for all these activities from local administrative level is effective implementation and monitoring. As we were talking about tree inventorization, here let me explain you what is the GPS-based tree inventorization is and how this helps in urban forestry plan. Tree inventorization basically is going to each and individual tree and creating a database of its various attributes. This generates a database for these urban bodies from local municipal bodies to municipal councils, from municipal councils to municipal corporations. What does this mean? The generated data has number of species of trees, species composition, which also enables the body to find out if there are any invasive species, what is the composition or what is the proportion of invasive species in their limits or jurisdiction. So urban forestry plan, while designing the strategies to eradicate invasive species and to replace with the native species, can be made. To increase green cover, to do the green mapping, this GPS based tree inventarization can be taken help of. GPS based tree inventarization can be bought through policies as well. There are various acts in various states which deals with tree census or counting the trees or protection of the trees. Maharashtra state has Tree Protection Act and Tree Conservation Act. Maharashtra state also has a mandate of for municipal councils to municipal corporations to do the tree census similar to human census in every 5 years. These are few of the municipal councils to municipal corporations. We have so far done the tree inventarization digitally, taking the aid of GPS or GIS based tools. And with this approach, more than 10 million trees have been inventorized in India so far. So these municipal councils to corporations or bodies have taken help of these database and have started planning for their biodiversity strategies and implementation and action plans. This is very important in terms of planning and conserving the biodiversity in the urban bodies. We as part of businesses, we have Pratiksha here who will guide you to how can we as part of businesses can be a part of solution. Pratiksha, can you take over?
Thank you, Abhijit. So I'll be taking over from here. Uh, Business is often considered as an impacting factor for nature biodiversity, but this is not the only case. Business also depends on biodiversity directly or indirectly. In order to minimize the risk, there is a need for mainstreaming biodiversity in business. We do this with the help of a mitigation hierarchy. It's a set of guidelines established through the International Finance Corporation Performance Standard 6. This is meant to help development projects prepare for impacts and to aim to achieve no net loss of biodiversity. The first step in this is avoidance. In the initial step of mitigation hierarchy, it works best when it is parallel with the project planning. Avoidance includes changing site locations, using alternative development practices, and limiting the area of impact. The next step is minimization. Project impact minimization helps reduce the intensity of development impacts on the environment. Minimization can be integrated into project through new technologies or methods, reduction in total land space required for project activities, or even by altering the timing to limit impacts on species and habitats. The next is restoration. If the project is unable to avoid or minimize impacts, restoration is the next step. This step can repair impacts such as soil degradation, increased erosion, disturbed vegetation, and more. Restoration can include labor-intensive practices that restore habitats back to pre-project state, or they can boost natural process for recovery of natural lands. The last step is offset. Offset are the last step in mitigation hierarchy, and they are also meant to be the last resort. However, they should be prepared at the start of project to maximize their efficiency. Offset includes various actions taken by the company to balance the overall negative impacts of development projects. This can include funding for national parks, restoration projects, and involvement with local, regional, or national environmental initiatives. The last step also includes additional conservation actions, wherein you can support conservation activities, plantation activities, etc. Now let's talk about what other things business and industries can do. We can be a part of business by making a biodiversity management plan, carry out biodiversity and ecosystem service assessment review. This helps us to understand the dependency of business on services and assess the impact of diversity. We can even implement, design, develop a green belt in industrial areas or assess an already existing one and update it. It is actually recommended by environmental laws for industries to have 33% of land under green cover. We can even do ecological restoration to restore the degraded land to its original integrity. There can even be integration or association between sectors and levels to combine their resources to implement the management plans that have been prepared or carry out any activity for nature conservation. There are also other tools and techniques that can help as a part of solution, and that is the satellite data or GIS or remote sensing data. So currently there are more than 2000 satellites that are operational, of which 446 satellites are dedicated for Earth environment. And from these 446, 162 are dedicated for monitoring climate change. Using this satellite data, we can do analysis like land use land cover mapping. Land use land cover mapping helps in understanding or assessing biodiversity because there is an interdependency between biodiversity and land use. Hence, even the slightest change can affect biodiversity composition. Then comes green cover mapping. Green cover mapping is calculating area under green cover and assessment of changes in green cover. It lets you understand the extent, and this can be done by two ways. One is GPS based tree inventory and other by remote sensing. GPS based tree inventorization is one where we physically go on field and the tree location data along with other attributes is collected, just like Abhijit explained previously. Evaluation of ecosystem services can also be done using GIS and remote sensing. We get many benefits from ecosystem on nature. Ecosystem services, their benefits can be evaluated using certain tools and softwares like carbon sequestration, watershed mapping, etc. GIS and remote sensing also helps in assessment of biophysical parameters. Hence, assessment of parameters like temperature, precipitation, evapotranspiration, and vegetation can help in changes in biodiversity. Then we come to the theme of this year for Biodiversity Day. That is, we are the part of solution, or me as a part of solution. What you as an individual can do: you can increase your knowledge about biodiversity, support government policies and actions that help in their conservation, or you can volunteer in different areas. You can volunteer to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Did you know it only takes $30 to recycle almost all the materials, $50 to take the garbage to landfill, and almost $75 to burn it, which pollutes the air. And that single aluminum can sit in landfill for at least 500 years. And almost all of these aluminum cans can be recycled. Well, if you volunteer to reduce, reuse, and recycle waste, it can decrease the pressure on landfills and eventually decrease pollution. It also helps aquatic habitats. Why? Because this waste has a way of getting into oceans, and this can affect the aquatic animals. You must have seen the photo of a turtle trapped in plastic bag, or recent example of how the masks we use for our protection end up in oceans and they get trapped in this aquatic animals. The next is you can volunteer to conserve water. If you take a shower of 5 minutes or less, it saves up to 70 liters of water per shower. Installing the latest water saving toilet plus system, you can save up to 700 liters of water each year. Or you can keep taps closed while washing clothes or utensils, which will save up to 50 liters of water per day. This reduces pressure on extraction of water from freshwater habitats. It also reduces water and wastewater treatment costs and amount of energy used to treat, pump, and heat water. Or you can volunteer to bike more or drive less. If we as volunteers even shift 10% of our journeys from cars to bike, it will reduce air pollution and save up to 400 productive life years of making automobiles. This will reduce pressure on extraction of fossil fuel, which is usually done by destroying forest habitats or constructing extraction station in between sea or ocean, among which petrol is used in most of the vehicles. Or you can volunteer to choose sustainable. You can make sustainable food choices, use cloth bags instead of plastics, or choose items that have sustainable packaging. The benefits are endless. You don't have to replace them again and again, as they are long lasting and have a positive impact on environment. On your right side is a flow diagram of life cycle of sustainable packaging, where it starts from extraction of raw materials from nature and then ends in how the reuse, recycled materials can again, from there you can extract the raw materials for the further processing. Or you can choose to do plantation, or you can assist in plantation activities. You can even promote native plantation rather than promoting exotic species. This is a photo of a mangrove plantation drive which Terracon has carried out. We have planted more than 100,000 saplings. In the beginning of presentation, we learned that human population has more than doubled in last 4 decades. One more exceptional and phenomenal thing that has happened in these 4 decades, a single man from Assam named Jadov Payang has created a fully functional expanding forest over 550 hectares in Majuli sandbars of Assam, India. There are numerous species of birds and insects on this island. This forest thus shelters few wild tigers and is also acting as a mitigation route for more than 100 Asiatic wild elephants. Well, if one man can create such a wonder, then you and I also can. With this thought, we, Terracon, as an organization, along with our partner NBTech, has taken up an initiative to carry out 10 million plantation at Shahapura and Murbad in Maharashtra. This is not just a plantation drive, but a mission for addressing various issues, including sustainable local livelihood. To know more about our Plantation with Purpose initiative, do visit NBTech website and follow us on social media accounts like Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you.
Um, Thank you, Pratiksha, so much for your input. And that concludes our webinar for today. We have set aside to take some of your questions. At least feel free to send in your questions. We will get started with them now. Our first question is from Krishna Biswas. He asked that do only local people who live near natural resources, such as water bodies and forests, participate in nature conservation? The second part to his question is, we have also seen that local people extract natural resources. Local people who live near these natural resources extract them. Kindly comment on that. Abhijit, Pratiksha, if you may.
Hello, can you repeat the question?
Yes. So our first question asked, do only local people who live near natural resources such as water bodies and forests participate in nature conservation? We have also noticed that some local people who do live near natural water bodies and forests, they extract resources. Kindly comment on that.
So basically, the thing is that there are some of the local bodies that are allowed to extract, but then those extraction are regulated by the government as well.
Okay.
Abhishek, would you like to comment further on this? Yeah. So basically, the extraction, yeah, it is also noticed that yes, people living near this resources do extract, and but it is always like I said before, it is always regulated by the government, and they do keep in check, and they are more involved in these nature conservation activities because they have an idea about what resources are available in their areas, and they can help in mitigation in case there is a overuse of this resource.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pratiksha. We have one more question. If Tanseem had asked if we would be circulating copies of the slides of the presentation.
So we'll be circulating the recorded session, and it's also on YouTube. And the slides will definitely come back to if we are circulating the slides. But yes, you will have the recording definitely, and since it's going on YouTube, you can access it anytime.
Thank you so much. We will wait for a few minutes and see if, okay, we do have some more questions. A second question is, how can GIS systems help reduce the waste from help reduce decrease the waste from household, agriculture, and industries?
Okay, so basically GIS. So nowadays there are GPS systems that have been attached to the waste transportation automobiles. So although they do carry the waste from households, they will be tracked, and then where they reach, which landfills are overloaded, or where to not overfill them is what GIS will do. Basically, it will manage the entire system, and those people can track from where the waste is coming from, where it is going, and how it will be processed further. But it is only like with the help of those tracking system, and you cannot directly quantify the amount of waste that might be collected.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pratiksha. Abhijit, do you have anything else to add to any of the questions so far?
No, she has covered it all.
Okay, fine. So that is actually all the questions we have for now.
If you have any further questions later on, you can obviously write to us on info or on our various IDs. You can approach to us from social media as well.
Yes, like Abhijit said, any further questions, please email us at info@terraconindia.com, and we will get back to you about your questions as well. The video recordings will be emailed to you. and we will also have them up on our YouTube channel in a few days.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being with us here today. We hope you found it really informative. Abhijit, I think you can go ahead and complete the webinar. Thank you and have a nice day, everybody.
Yes, it was nice presenting to you all, and thank you for attending this webinar about biodiversity awareness and how we are connected to biodiversity and our role, biodiversity's role, and how it can, how conservation will help us achieve a healthy environment and a healthy living for us only, apart from biodiversity. So with this great quotes, please start contributing from today itself and start acting on the theme of this year, like I am part of solution, you as an individual. The suggestions which Pratiksha explained nicely can be small, but the result is fascinating. The result is huge. Like imagine all the humans started acting on individual level, it can create a drastic change and improve a lot. So with this thing, I am part of nature and we are part of nature. I pledge to act on individual level, and I ask you to do the same. So let's hope and wish you a great biodiversity day and rest of your day. Thank you.